Happy Mother's Day! Today is a day that's often filled with celebration and time with family. But for a lot of people, Mother's Day looks a little different and brings up complicated feelings. From grandparents stepping into the role of parent.
And just one day out of nowhere, Child Protective Services informed me that my 2-month-old grandson was in intensive care and his 2-year-old brother had been taken.
To families navigating the loss of a child, to single moms doing it all on their own.
We found out we were pregnant with a child, really excited. A few months after that, we found out that our son would be stillborn, and we lost him.
A lot of times single women or single mothers don't get appreciated in the work that they do, so I think it's a time to honor and just empower them and give them breaks if you can.
On this episode of Real Talk with Micah Smith, we're looking at how the holiday carries different meanings for everyone. Welcome to Real Talk with Micah Smith. I'm your host, Micah, and I am so glad to have you with us. This time last year on this show, we took a closer look at the meaning behind Mother's Day, not just a celebration, but as a day that carries love, loss, and transformation. We also found there's no single way to experience it. So this year, I wanted to build on that conversation and go deeper into the often unseen ways Mother's Day is lived out in our communities. Mother doesn't always mean biological mom. Across our state and around the country, more grandparents are stepping in to raise their grandchildren. And digging into the numbers, U.S. Census data shows about 2.7 million children in the U.S. are being raised by grandparents without parents present in the home. This can be for many reasons, including substance abuse, child abuse, mental illness, incarceration, or military deployment. When this happens, grandparents often step in unexpectedly, and in some cases, they may even be on a fixed income, making sacrifices to care for the ones they love. So while Mother's Day is meaningful, it can also be complicated. And the founder of Beloved Grandfamilies, a nonprofit in Denver, knows this well. The organization works to help support grandparents raising their grandchildren. And joining us now is the founder of Beloved Grandfamilies, Jacqueline Enriquez. Jacqueline, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for letting me be here today. It's a blessing to be here. Thank you.
What inspired you to start your nonprofit?
Well, when I started, it's a story that happened to me. I had been in the corporate world for over 20 years and planning for that retirement dream, traveling around the world, and just one day out of nowhere, Child Protective Services informed me that my 2-month-old grandson was in intensive care and his 2-year-old brother had been taken from the only home he had ever known and placed into foster care. So I had to make an immediate decision to take custody of Not, and of course, there was no decision to be made, but I had no car seats, no bottles to take, when they got home. I had no cribs for them to sleep in, so it was a big change. I ended up having to quit my job, and I struggled. I had health issues. I became very depressed. I depleted my 401k, my savings, and then there was, just a lot of problems with family relations. So I had to dig deep. I had to heal myself. I had to navigate a lot of services. And through all that interim, I was able to, our family was able to reunify. And I just knew that there was other families and other grandfamilies out there. And so I wanted to be that 1-800 grandma that their voice could be heard. So I decided to found Beloved Grandfamilies and just be able to help other grandparents who are out there that feel like they're alone as well. I had no idea that I would, when I told the story, that I was alone, but my story is not a unique story. And you mentioned the 2.7 million grandparents out there raising their grandchildren, but there's over 35,000 alone here in Colorado, and that doesn't even include the kinship care, providers outside of the grandfamily. So it's huge.
That is huge.
Yes.
In many cases, grandparents do have legal parental rights. What are some grandparental rights that folks may not be aware of?
Well, that's the thing is that the grandparental rights are a little bit difficult in Colorado. A lot of times the grandparents, when the children are left in the home and they don't have the right custody for the children, there are a few ways temporary that you can do it. You can apply for a Colorado caregiver affidavit, and that's temporary just so you can get the children into school and make doctor's appointments and do everyday care, which is something that's helpful. But it is important that you do have to seek assistance and get navigation to get that legal custody just so you're protected as far as being able to keep the children in the home.
Jacqueline, you mentioned a lot of sacrifices that you had to make, mainly because you weren't planning for this at all. In your support group, in this nonprofit that you started, what are you hearing in terms of some of the challenges that grandparents are facing when raising their grandchildren?
A lot is financial. A lot of our grandfamilies are on fixed incomes. Most of it is legal. We have a 74-year-old grandparent that's raising her great-granddaughter. She just adopted her. And, you know, we're trying to find a legal way now to figure out, like, what's going to happen to her great-granddaughter, you know, if something happens to her, things like that. There's just so many different situations. Every family's situation is unique. So it's financial, health. We have a grandparent right now who just had her leg amputated, but through our support groups, we become family. So now we're not doing our support groups at the library, we're doing them at her, the center that she's staying at, her rehabilitation center, because we're just family, you know. And these people, I think the biggest problem is the isolation, and we need to make sure that they're not isolated. I think the biggest situation is they're like, who do you call? Who will help? You know, are they going to take the child from the home? So they're really isolated, and they have no idea that that they're not alone and that other people are walking in their shoes. And it takes a lot just to step outside that door and get into a support group, but they're so important, and we're family, and you'll be surprised about how familiar it is of the shoes that they're walking in, that they can relate and help and support you.
It's beautiful, though, that you're able to help fill that gap. This episode is about Mother's Day.
Yes.
And communities who may experience the holiday differently.
Yes.
If you're a grandparent raising your grandchild, are holidays like these tough?
You know, yes, they're very difficult. The thing is that you're going through a lot of different things. You're very loving. It's Mother's Day, but sometimes you feel a little bit of guilt because your child's not involved in it, but you have to be very, very strong. You're thinking about making the holiday well for your grandchild because their parent's not there. You try to make new traditions for the family. But you know, just one thing that I want to say is that I just want to say I'm heartfelt for this, that, you know, some of these parents that are putting their children in the care of these grandparents are really doing a blessing for their children. Well, they're trying to get their things, you know, if they have the opportunity to get their things together, because they're giving their children the opportunity to be in a safe, stable environment. So, you know, just try not to judge and love, and you have your boundaries, but, you know, sometimes it's a really blessing. And so we work really hard at reunifying families.
That's a beautiful outlook, especially given how hard it is, but I can tell with you saying that this all comes from a place of love. So thank you, Jacqueline Enriquez, founder of Beloved Grand Families, for joining us for this Real Talk.
Thank you. Happy Mother's Day to everyone out there, and many blessings.
And happy Mother's Day to you.
Thank you.
For some, Mother's Day is marked by loss instead of celebration. So coming up, how one local organization is supporting parents grieving the unimaginable. This is Real Talk with Micah Smith. Welcome back to Real Talk with Micah Smith. For many people, Mother's Day is a time of joy and appreciation. But for parents who have lost a child, it can be one of the hardest days of the year. Grief experts say holidays like today can reopen wounds and become a painful reminder. Some parents may choose to honor their children through traditions or private moments of remembrance. Others say they simply try to get through the day, 1 minute at a time. Working to support local families dealing with this unimaginable grief is the organization Adam's Purpose, which works to provide culturally sensitive and welcoming care to Black families mourning the loss of a child. So joining us now is Shay Jacobs, Executive Director of Adam's Purpose. Shay, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here today.
What led you to create Adam's Purpose?
Well, very vulnerably, my own lived experience. So in 2018, my husband and I, we lost his mother. After that, we found out we were pregnant with a child, really excited. A few months after that, we found out that our son would be stillborn. And we lost him. And then we lost a niece, like a month after we lost our baby. And so our own personal grief story, our own personal lived experience is one of the reasons. And then also through that, I discovered that there were no resources for us to properly grieve. And so the culmination of my lived experience and then the lack of access to like care that would be helpful for me and my family to work through our grief, it didn't exist. Wow. So that led me to build Adam's Purpose, which is his namesake. My son's name is Adam.
That's beautiful. And no resources when you're dealing with compounded grief. Wow.
Yes.
How are you able to fill a gap and support for grieving mothers and families?
Yeah, so right now we are supporting over 150 individuals a year through grief support. We provide grief support groups for bereaved moms of color, and we are providing family healing circles every month for the mother and the whole family, partners, fathers, siblings, aunts, uncles, and grandparents, because in communities like ours, we know that it's very intergenerational. You know, grandfather could have been like a father, auntie could have been like a mom. And so we allow the whole family who's impacted by the loss of that child to come together for intergenerational healing. And we provide individual therapy as well, and we do remembrance events every year to help support just even the ability to grieve, right? Oftentimes we're not given permission to grieve. And what does that look like? And what does that mean? And where do I go? So we have a great support of people who have experienced that same loss that are now helping us to help those pay it forward by being comfort, by being hope, by being healing, and coming alongside.
That is so important. And even when you talk about intergenerational, I mean, that goes back to our last guest, Jacqueline, with grand families. So that's very important as well. What are days like Mother's Day like for parents who are grieving?
Days like Mother's Day for parents who are grieving the loss of their child are extremely difficult. It's times like this where we call them remembrance days, or we call them anniversaries. So whether it's a birthday anniversary, a death anniversary, or holidays like Mother's Day are extremely painful for the moms that have lost children. It's that constant reminder that their child is not here, even though that's a daily reminder. It's times like this where you're seeing it on the news, moms are getting flowers, they're being honored by their families and their children. And for many women, the hole in their heart is just hollow because they are missing and grieving the life of their child. Even if it was 5 years, 10 years, 15 and 20 years ago, it never does go away.
You're always thinking about what could be. So that is extremely tough.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for how to support loved ones going through the grief of losing a child?
Yeah, so one of the things that we really like to encourage people to do is to ask. Ask what's meaningful, right? I have some moms in our program where it's meaningful for them to celebrate. And I have some moms that say it's more meaningful just to be quiet or to be still. So I always encourage people who are walking alongside of a bereaved mom to ask her, to honor her. What would it most look like, or what would it feel like to honor you during this time, or to honor your child? Sometimes, most of our moms, just talking about their child, it brings warmth and remembrance and just living those moments if that is applicable. We have some moms where that's not applicable, where they've lost a miscarriage, or they've lost an infant child, or had a stillbirth like me. The other thing I would recommend if you are walking alongside of someone who is grieving is just be comforting. You know, consider how they might feel. It's always appropriate to maybe send a card, just say, I'm thinking of you, or take them somewhere. But I think the key thing is leaning into what is most meaningful to that mom. And the one thing that I would encourage is don't be silent. Sometimes we think that it's appropriate to be silent, but grief can be so lonely. It can be lonely, it can be isolating, and many people think that I don't want to, you know, upset someone, or I don't want to touch it, or we don't know what to do. And so we lean way back when we really should just lean in and just say, hey, I know this is a tough time of year. I'm so sorry. I miss him too, or I miss her too, or I know you're missing your child. How can I honor you today?
Recognize that person's pain.
Recognize that person's pain. Please do not tell them that time has passed and they should be okay. Please recognize and honor that even if they look strong and even if they appear to be okay, that deep down inside, their heart is still tender, it's still breaking.
Shay Jacobs, Executive Director of Adam's Purpose, thank you so much for sharing your story, and thank you for this real talk.
Thank you.
For single moms, there's no day off, even on Mother's Day. So still ahead, how community support is making all the difference. This is Real Talk with Micah Smith. Welcome back to Real Talk with Micah Smith. For single mothers, even on Mother's Day, there are no days off, no co-parent to take over, just constant responsibility. A report from the Colorado Children's Campaign found 28% of children in Colorado live in a single-parent household. These households often face added financial hardships. The nonprofit America First Policy Institute says in 2023, 69% of single mother households in Colorado did not have enough resources to meet basic needs. That's compared to 16% of two-parent households. Many single moms say what makes the difference is community. There's a lot of support groups working to help single moms with everything from childcare swaps to emotional support, helping mothers feel less alone. I want to know more about the difference between these groups, or the difference that they're making, that is. So joining us now is Jasmine Elizabeth with Mamas Who Hustle. Jasmine, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So what has been your experience as a mom, and who hasn't always had the support that you've needed?
So interestingly enough, as a single woman with children, so I like to identify that I'm a single woman with children because I do have support through community, and I do have support through their fathers. So even though we don't live in the same space, we do have the parenting piece, but the day-to-day interactions can be overwhelming for sure. When you have 3 kids, no space, no time, you're working, you're an entrepreneur, you're wearing the hats, you're doing all of the things. So at times it can be very overwhelming, and a lot of times we don't really have the space to talk about how overwhelming it can actually be.
Yeah, so even when you do have that support from community, dad's still in their lives, it's still a lot, because when they come home with you, they are with you.
And I have Velcro babies. So when they're with me, they are with me attached to the hip. It doesn't matter what room I'm in. If I'm cooking, they're in the kitchen. If I'm in the living room, they're doing flips. If I'm in the bathroom, they're at the door.
Ooh-wee.
Yeah, it's nonstop. And my son, my 2-year-old, he wakes up animated. So from the moment he wakes up, he's ready to play, and my daughter is with it as well. So it's like nonstop for sure, for sure.
How does Mamas Who Hustle help fill some of the very gaps in support that you faced?
So Mamas Who Hustle was actually formed because when I found out that I was having my first child, I didn't want my baby. And so I had to come to terms with what am I going to do as a professional woman who found herself with child but didn't necessarily want to have a child. But I didn't believe in abortions at the time, so the only option was to have my baby. And so from there, I'm like, okay, this is a totally different dynamic than what I expected for my life. And now that I'm here, what does that look like? And so I made a post on social media about it, like, this is crazy. How does this work? How do we do this? How do I make this transition? And I had so many women reach out to me in my inbox who could actually relate, like, oh my God, Jasmine, I never felt safe enough to be able to say that I have kids that I don't want, or that I don't have the support, or I don't have the opportunity to express what I need as I transition from a professional to a mother. And so that's where Mamas came in. Mamas was a safe space for women to be able to have those conversations and to express those needs and concerns, and get the help and the counseling that you need as you transition, because it's a total life change. And so that's what Mamas does. Mama creates space for you to be able to have those conversations, and also to heal in that space and remember who you are as a woman once you come out of the overwhelming change of becoming a mother, if that makes sense.
It does. So you're providing the support as they're moving forward as mothers, and you're filling in those gaps in support as they're coming to terms with this life change. What have you learned since starting your organization, Jasmine?
It's not a monolith, in that it's a continuous process. So right now the program is 16 weeks where we do coaching, but I realize that it has to be far more intentional. So even after you complete the program, we stay connected with the mamas. So I've learned that motherhood never stops, it just changes. So I even have some mamas in the program who are in their 80s and their children are 30 and 40, but they're still like, I'm still a mom. Like, there's still so many things and responsibilities that I have. So it never stops. It just changes and pivots as it goes and evolves.
Just evolves.
It just evolves.
What are days like Mother's Day like for single women with children?
You know, it varies. I think for some women, they like to spend it with their children. Like, let's go have a day with their children. Some mamas are like, please get rid of my babies and let's go
need a
have
break.
brunch. Yes, a break. And so we like to be able to provide breaks for mamas on Mother's Days. Like, if you need help, if you need a release, if you need to just breathe for a moment, reach out to us. We can help you with that. Because I think it's a day of honoring and empowering, because a lot of times single women or single mothers don't get appreciated in the work that they do. So I think it's a time to honor and just empower them and give them breaks if you can.
Yeah. All right, Jasmine Elizabeth with Mamas Who Hustle. Thank you so much for this Real Talk, and you kept it real.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you that was great.
Thank you.
All right. And that is this week's episode of Real Talk with Micah Smith. Mother's Day means something different for every family, and we are grateful you spent time with us exploring those stories. If there's a Real Talk you would like to have, please let me know. You can email me at micah.smith@denver7.com. And in the meantime, you can find all of our shows on denver7.com/realtalk. Have a great day.